Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Seen here. An AI image of what appears to be a gorilla, an albino gorilla with no pigment, about to squash a Roach. That would be Lamont Roach. That would be Moton. Carmel in motion. Still vying for a Lamont Roach fight now that everybody knows the Gervonta Davis rematch ain't gonna happen and Lamont Roach is free. Carmel Moton stated, "I ain't gotta say much. Y'all know how I'm coming." Carmel in motion. Doesn't all boil down to Carmel and wanting to or not wanting to. Floyd Mayweather is his promoter, so Floyd Mayweather has to put up the money. Otherwise, I don't know how this is going to happen, and Floyd's the one who made the recommendation. A good chunk of Gervonta Davis's fans have latched onto Carmel Moton as the would-be savior. They've jumped on Carmel's bandwagon for no other reason than they don't want Gervonta Davis to fight Lamont again. The first time was too scary. And they're pretending that Lamont Roach has anything to gain in fighting Carmel Moton. But what is Carmel's claim to fame besides being Floyd's new protege? He's not some Olympic medalist from out of the amateurs. He's not really an amateur standout. As a professional, he has yet to face anyone of note. And the only thing that he seems to have going for him is that he's Floyd's new protege, Gervonta Davis's replacement. For the life of me, I don't see what's supposed to stand out about Carmel aside from he has a slight resemblance to Gervonta Davis, and if I didn't know better, looks like Floyd signed the first Gervonta Davis lookalike he could find. I'd say when Gervonta Davis left Floyd Mayweather, he ran out and found the first kid that looks like him, the first kid with a fleeting resemblance to Gervonta. And now he's trying to pawn him off on Lamont Roach, at least figuratively, to service as the launch pad for his next protege, though ultimately, Floyd's brand of promotion these days doesn't seem to extend beyond social media. All he ever seems to do is make these recommendations for fights that aren't likely to happen. It was Ray's the one who pointed out, Ray, friend of the channel and a regular on the panel, that Floyd doesn't seem to do much more than pop up on social media every so often, make a recommendation for a fight that isn't likely to happen, like what he did with Lee Wood over a year ago. Remember he was trying to pawn off Carmel Moton on Lee Wood? Carmel in motion. Needless to say, that fight didn't happen, and I don't expect this one to either, not unless Floyd puts his money where his mouth is and puts the money up. Otherwise, I don't know how this fight is supposed to happen. Has he actually had a dialogue with Lamont Roach? Has he made him an offer, a cash offer? It's been a few days now since he made that recommendation. Without him incentivizing an offer to Lamont to do the fight, there ain't no reason to do the fight. You're the one that suggested it, you're the one that brought it up, so you can pay for it. Money May, where would it air? Beats me. Mayweather Promotions ain't got no broadcast deal with nobody. Mayweather Promotions, in all actuality, was just a subsidiary of Al Heyman's PBC. Mayweather Promotions never had the legs to stand on its own. And it doesn't seem to now. It's what I told you before. When PBC's got problems, Mayweather Promotions has got problems. And all that seems to remain of the Mayweather Promotions stable is Carmel Moton. Because what other Mayweather Promotions fighters do you hear about besides him? And you barely hear about him. Barely see him. So Carmel, in the mean in-between time, can type in as many commands to ChatGPT as he wants to generate as many AI images as he wants. But if he wants a fight, Floyd is going to have to do more than just make suggestions on social media. He claims to be a promoter, so get out there and promote. Being a promoter is more than cooking up graphics to upload on Instagram. If you want to make a fight, go make the fight.
We are very well respected in the space. I don't think it would be difficult for us to walk into another broadcast deal, but we're very happy with DAZN as partners. And as I said, the strategic element of that, I mean, when we talk about, the power list and stuff like that, we have international deals with DAZN in multiple markets, and obviously particularly the US market, which makes us unique as a business. And I actually believe that DAZN are in a fantastic place, particularly in the US market right now. And we are in deep talks to extend that relationship, and we're very happy with our broadcast partner.
Deciphering what Eddie Hearn said and what Eddie Hearn means, why would DAZN be in a fantastic place in the U.S. market right now? Well, it's because Top Rank ain't what it used to be, and neither is the PBC. That was their biggest competition when they debuted in the U.S. in 2018. They were getting pushback from the PBC, pushback from Top Rank. Both were with major broadcast partners that have since left the boxing space. Fox, Showtime, more recently ESPN, at least momentarily. Do you remember when they used to rag on DAZN, calling it Dead Zone? Do you remember when all those guys used to say Eddie Hearn doesn't know what the hell he's doing?
Remember?
And as time would have it,
Remember?
Eddie Hearn and DAZN have outlasted them in their own home turf because
They shrunk.
where their carbon footprint in the sport is shrinking, DAZN's has only grown. They've expanded to even more markets. They're working with more promoters, smaller ones, from all around the world, with almost every major broadcaster in the United States having walked away from the sport of boxing. DAZN has fast become the home of boxing for Turkey's Ring Magazine and Riyadh season shows, as well as Matchroom, as well as Golden Boy, and many other smaller promotional outfits like OTX, Salida Promotions, Dream Boxing, and many, many others. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom don't have a reason to leave. They don't have a reason to seek a new broadcast partner so much as extend with the one that they already have. I remember years ago when Matchroom officially left Sky Sports to go all in with DAZN. Some questioned whether or not that was the right decision, but look at how it turned out. Sky tried to replace them. Sky tried to stay in the boxing space, but without Matchroom, it was too difficult. Sky's a very big platform in the UK, but I believe that the byproduct of Matchroom, if they would have stayed on Sky, they would have stayed domestic. They would have stayed a largely UK outfit that does international shows every so often. Whereas jumping into bed with DAZN and going all in, they in effect were able to grow. Grow with DAZN and all of the markets they have since expanded to. In the end, it was the right decision. Hindsight is 2020. They made the right move. So it sounds a lot like Matchroom is going to stay on DAZN, which is not surprising, and they've already started to fortify their stable of fighters. I saw them sign a couple of Olympians, a couple of new guys. I would like to see them fortify their female stable of fighters. I can make a few good recommendations from the United States. I would like to see them sign Micaiah Krebs when she becomes available. She's very good, 122-pounder. Another 122-pounder in Johanna Wanyu of France, but based out of the UK. Very good, unbeaten. Unbeaten, very fan-friendly. I would like to see them sign Nayeli Rodriguez, also unbeaten, from the super flyweight division. A fighter with Mexican roots, very fan-friendly style, well-schooled boxer, easy on the eyes, and marketable. Young. After all this time in the American market, Eddie Hearn has got to know that Mexicans move the needle. Why not try signing a female fighter of Mexican descent, a young one, and developing her, doing for her what you did for Katie Taylor? Just a few suggestions now that it looks a lot like Matchroom is going to be staying on the DAZN platform. Just in keeping with the theme of things that Eddie Hearn said, purse bids for the Subriel Matias versus Dalton Smith WBC Super Lightweight title mandatory contest will take place on Tuesday. Eddie Hearn has revealed Turkey El Sheikh was hoping to stage the bout on November 22nd in Riyadh, but couldn't agree to terms with Matias' side. And who's on Matias' side? Dimitri Salida is on Matias' side. Now I remember one of those fights that Jarrell Miller was supposed to have on one of Turkey's shows, back when he was still with Dimitri Salida, under contract with him, the fight collapsed. I can't remember which fight it was, but I do remember that Jarrell Miller blamed Dimitri Salida for the fight's collapse and called him one of the greediest people he had ever met. That was a few months ago. I think it was the Derek Chisora fight. Look, it was one of them. It was one of the fights that Jarrell Miller was supposed to have that collapsed. There's been more than one. The important part is that Jarrell Miller blamed Dimitri. Dimitri, who now co-promotes Subriel Matias, two-time super lightweight champion, more specifically WBC champion, who is under orders to satisfy his mandatory challenger in Dalton Smith. You'd think Dimitri's driving a hard bargain. Well, when Eddie Hearn says that the Matias side couldn't agree with the El Sheikh side, yeah. He represents Dalton Smith in all of this, but remember, this is not a Matchroom show. And it's not Matchroom at the helm of the promotion. It's Turkey LL Sheik. It's his event. If it goes to a purse bid on Tuesday, anyone from Dimitri Salita to Eddie Hearn to Turkey LL Sheik himself can put a bid in for the fight. Dimitri Salita doesn't have as much money as Matchroom, and he certainly doesn't have as much money as Turkey.
I think he's after more money. If there is a disagreement between Team Matias and LL Sheik, it's likely about the money and Dimitri wanting more.
The worst thing that could happen for Dimitri is that purse bid gets here and he actually wins it, because then he's gonna have to go into his own pocket to put on that fight. He has to if he wants Matias to keep that belt.
That's the worst case scenario.
For him it is, if he has to put on that fight himself, as opposed to just renting his fighter out, collecting his fee at no risk to him.
No expense.
So then why doesn't he, you ask? Because he's likely angling for more money. Whatever money they offered Matias, he wants more. That is my best guess as to why the Matias side would not be in agreement with the LL Sheik side. Somebody on the Matias side is getting greedy.
The fight has to happen. It's already been ordered. There's already a deadline set. The purse bid is Tuesday. So whatever's whatever, the fight has to happen. So soon after having won that belt, I don't think Subriel Matias plans on surrendering it to Dalton Smith.
One way or another, I think it's going to happen. You know what would be funny? If the purse bid comes and goes, Matchroom wins the purse bid, then gives the rights to Turkey.
To do the show in November anyway.
Yeah, that'd be pretty hilarious. Dimitri Salita would have gone through all that trouble just for them to fight in November anyway, on that same show at Turkey's price.
How are you so sure it's Dimitri Salita?
Well, I have heard it on more than one occasion from more than one boxer that Dimitri is a bit of a scumbag, bit of a sleazeball. He's a greedy guy. So it's in keeping with his reputation that he might drive a hard bargain.
Careful he doesn't drive into a wall.
We'll see what happens, but irrespective of what happens, I trust that the fight will, because it has to. Subriel didn't go through all this to win that belt, just to hand it over to Dalton Smith. I'm confident they will fight.
I know you saw him sparring with Boots. Give me your initial response to that.
That don't mean shit, man. That don't mean shit. That don't mean nothing, man. Boots ain't no Crawford.
That's right.
Yo, hey, like I said, that don't mean, all that shit don't mean nothing. That shit ain't gonna help him. He should have just got the last cab driver he just fought. Cause that shit ain't gonna, that don't mean nothing, man. All that shit don't mean nothing. You ain't no Bud Crawford. They don't have that mentality. Having that mentality and going upside your head at the same motherfucking time, shit, man. I don't give a fuck about all that shit, dog.
It's not so much that he's sparring Boots specifically. It's the gesture, it's the thought that counts. That maybe Canelo's been on autopilot with other fights involving other fighters like John Ryder and Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga,
Jermel Charlo even.
But bringing in Boots for Crawford means Canelo is paying attention now. He's more switched on for this fight than he was for the others. Now, I don't expect Brian McIntyre and Bud Crawford to be shaking in their boots because Canelo's sparring Boots.
But like I said, it's the gesture. It's really the thought that counts.
Brian McIntyre continued, he being Canelo Alvarez, usually slows down, as he hinted at the game plan for Canelo. Terence Crawford's lead trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre, sat down quite literally while getting a shape-up from his barber to talk about a number of topics, including his big upcoming fight against Canelo Alvarez. Here, Bomac says he's unconcerned with Canelo's supposed power advantage because he knows that power won't carry into the second half of the fight, where he suggests Crawford will turn it up on Canelo. McIntyre, on how they plan to deal with Canelo's power, Canelo ain't the bigger guy. Shit. I don't give a fuck about that power. That power ain't gonna be able to sustain throughout the fight. Watch. And he usually slows down between 6 and 7. When you slow down, it's a fucking wrap. I seen him slow down going into the later rounds, and I seen his butt getting outboxed.
Slowing down is one way to interpret what Canelo does at the midway point of a fight, because it is true, his output starts to wane a bit in the middle. But is it because he's slowing down, Or is it because he's taking those rounds off? There is a difference. One is purposeful.
And one is not. The one that isn't suggests that he's kind of blown his wad, blowed his load, and his energy reserves are sapped. Whereas taking the round off suggests that he's still got more in the tank, but he's saving it for later. Saving it so he can finish strong.
I've seen that.
On Canelo's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, having a number of fighters test dirty, and if he has concerns going into this fight, no, because VADA was in place for this fight. When you say VADA's in place, that means he's getting tested. You don't know when. They might be testing him now as we're doing this interview. So if anything comes up, they're gonna bring it up, man.
I don't imagine that Team Crawford are any more concerned about Canelo doping than Canelo is concerned about their relationship with Victor Conti. I'm not worried about that, and they're not either. What's more telling is that Bomac...
It's what Bomac said. He's the one who brought up that Canelo's output does tend to wane in the mid-rounds. Deliberate or otherwise, it's something that happens. So are they relying on jumping on Canelo at that moment to pour it on the premise that his power doesn't carry into the later rounds? Need I remind you when it was he knocked out Caleb Plant?
That was in the 11th round, after the half. The 11th round and the championship rounds of a contest scheduled for 12.
I don't really think it's accurate to say that Canelo's power doesn't carry into the later rounds, because if it didn't, he wouldn't have stopped Caleb. And you're gonna say, well, it's been a long time since Canelo knocked anybody out.
And then I'm gonna say, well, when is the last time Terence Crawford knocked somebody out? 2 years ago at welterweight? This ain't welterweight. And this ain't Errol.
He didn't stop Madrimov. It's a bit of a tough sell that you're going to go up there 2 weight classes now to try and stop Canelo when you couldn't stop a far less experienced fighter in Israel Madrimov.
Way less experienced, way less proven.
Maybe a part of the reason that Canelo ain't stopping guys, at least as much as he used to, is because these are really big guys on the night. What did Edgar weigh? About 190? Or because he didn't knock out William's skull? What do you expect? William didn't come to win. He came to survive. He came to collect a check and not get knocked out. And William is also bigger and younger than Terence.
So when you say that Canelo hasn't knocked anybody out in a while, a lot of these guys are noticeably bigger and noticeably younger than Terence.
Whether he's being confident or cavalier, your guess is as good as mine, but Bomac is a bit too dismissive of Canelo's power for my tastes. This is a guy who battered Callum Smith's arms to the point he tore the bicep from the tendon and it rolled up into his deltoid, the bruises that he left on Dimitri Bivol's arms, both of which are bigger and younger than Terence.
Maybe Bomac doesn't think Canelo's power is a factor, but I disagree. I think it is.